Hello. It's Prince Easy. Um, let's get to it. All right. So today we're gonna see how we can practically live within our Creator's will, and of course, truly achieve the spiritual enlightenment that we are looking for. Really, right? This is what this journey is about. Really, right? So the first paragraph is really the books that our enemies read. And if you read these books, right, these hidden books, you can see that they are the mother of all the problems that we have today, right? The issues with children, right? Basically, the entire perversion of humanity comes from the Babylonians, right? The Babylonians did not really live a righteous life, right? Though they pretended to. But that's not the point, right? We're not going to talk about darkness today. We're going to talk about how we can see the light. And that's what we're trying to do, right? With every breath we take. That's what we should be thriving for, right? Or towards, right? So this is the practical, right? And we're going to do this through examples, right? So in the scriptures we have this person coming into the temple to offer something to, as I don't know, a token of appreciation, and we are told that in his heart he had a quarrel with his neighbor, and he was commanded to leave the sacrifice on the altar and to go make peace with his neighbor first and then come to complete this offering, right? That's the first example. The second example is when we are basically rebuked by those who say that we love God but we don't love each other, right? And we are told that these type of people do not have really what it takes to love God, right? So we're going to talk about what really takes to love God. And um, let me put it in this way, right? Let's dive deeper into these examples, right? Because they align with the two loves, right? The two loves that we talked about, right? The love of the Creator, that being one of them, and of course the love of each other being the second. So we're gonna really dive into what we have been doing and what we should be doing, really, right? So Yeshua really went into deep arguments with the Pharisees over some concepts within the law, right? Every time these people try to trick him and use misinterpretations to trap him, right? To find fault in him, and of course he answered them swiftly, right? Swiftly and efficiently, and we need to learn from these answers, right? So in the first example, for instance, right, the sacrifice, the offering to God was important, yes, but what was more important was that guy making peace with his neighbor, right? The same goes to these people that say that they love God but they don't love each other, right? This is not a true love of God. Why? Let's examine what it takes to love God, right? It takes sacrifice, right? It takes patience, right? Because every characteristics that, I don't know, we hate about each other, they are really characteristics that God has, really. Let's be honest about it, right? There's jealousy, right? God is really jealous, right? There is jealousy and envy. God is really jealous and envious, right? when he sees us worshiping other deities that are not the creator, he gets jealous, right? So it is that same line of thinking, right? So every attribute, anger, right? God is full of wrath, right? So what I'm trying to say is these people who say that they love God so much but they hate their neighbor, they are not really showing the fruits of that true and genuine love, right? And what it takes to truly love God, right? What it truly takes to love God is what it takes to love a person, right? What it takes to love a person, that is exactly what it takes to find and love God, right? That's why these two loves, right, I call them, right? The love of God and the love of each other. That's why these two things are one and the same, and yet they are intended to satisfy the thirst of our spiritual journeys, right? So this whole issue of gathering together, right? Other spiritual movements take the approach of a person, an individual, they themselves finding enlightenment, basically enlightening themselves with knowledge and all of these. But really, these people, they forgot about the second type of love, right? They live in isolation. They don't really bother themselves with what is happening to their neighbors. So they are really disingenuine in their pursuit of enlightenment, right? The fruits thereof are rather poisonous, right? Are rather poisonous. So if we look at the New Testament and the Old Testament, of course, there are changes. There are changes, or rather deeper interpretation of these laws that God gave gave people, right? Gave the Israelites as his people, right? So the issue of the Israelites was the lack of one of these two ingredients of love, right? The love of God and the love of each other, right? They, most of them lean, mostly the Pharisees, right? They lean more to the side of them saying that they love God, but deep inside themselves, they hate the next person. They hate the neighbor, right? They think less of their neighbor, and really that was their stumbling block up to now, right? They are so individualistic. They don't see the big picture, right? They don't see the big picture, right? They just pursue enlightenment, and for enlightenment's sake, that's it, right? They want to be enlightened, and that's it. It's just like an achievement, right? But if we were to be truly defining enlightenment, is really leading, right? It's truly leading. That's what it means, leading, right? We have found this good thing, and it's good thing. It's a good thing for us. Yes, it's healthy, but it it won't. It's like the example of the talents, right? One was three people were given talents, right? One buried, the other eh, made a profit, right? These are the examples that I don't know, they are supposed to like show us, or rather direct us of what we should do, right, with this enlightenment, right? This talent is that enlightenment, this little light that we have within ourselves, right? This spark of God that we have within ourselves. If we come together, then it becomes a light. It becomes a light, right? And we as Israelites, we are called to become the light to the entire world, right? This fallen world. Fallen, why? Because we don't have the love of God and we do not have the love of each other, and that's what we should be intending to fix, right? Okay, so we now sacrifice animals as in the change of the laws and situations? No, we don't, right? Because the one true sacrifice was given, right? The one true sacrifice was given, and that was an example to us to sacrifice to each other for each other's sake, right? That's the true sacrifice, right? So if we truly want to hold back God's vengeance, then we should do more to uplift each other, to love each other. That is the only way to show that we are capable of even loving God, right? It's like a test, right? So if you are completely and fully capable of loving your neighbor regardless of who they are and what they are, then the door then opens up for you to understand, for you to understand how our Creator works, right? So the issue of stoning, for instance, right? The issue of stoning, that law was scrapped, right? We don't stone sinners anymore, right? Right? It was a simple, eh? The law was broken simply, right, by the statement that if you are not without sin, then cast the first stone, right? That goes hand in hand with that bolt in the eye, right, example. So all of these issues about women and their, I don't know, reproductive situation and what they used to do, and right, the skin condition, right, all of these things, they were done, right? Even the issue of some animals that were not to be, they were said not to be fit to be consumed by an Israelite, right? Not fit to be consumed by Israelite, right? I talked about this point before, and I asked, okay, before this law was instituted, what happened, right? And you find out that the Israelites were fighting among each other, right? Because they had their traditions, all of these 12 tribes, they had their traditions and their way of life and their beliefs, and they tried to make their own beliefs the Creator's beliefs, right? So God had to intervene, right? God had to intervene and split, right? That's what that law did. It split, right? So you observe this and you observe this, right? But it was a product because of it was a product of the lack of love of each other, right? Christ himself said that if we are arguing about meat, then I won't eat meat, right? He said this. He said it, right? If we are, it's an issue of arguing about meat, then I won't eat meat, right? So this means that the key to truly finding spiritual enlightenment is the talents, right? The talents, the talents, using our talents to help each other, right? Using what we were given to help each other. That's the true meaning of enlightenment, not an achievement like, I don't know, a degree that now I am fully enlightened, right? And they give each other titles and stuff like that, right? So it is a thing that it's a lifetime, right? It's a lifetime. It's not a thing that you can just achieve overnight. No, it's a lifetime endeavor, right? It's a lifetime endeavor, because the more you interact with people, the more you learn about people, and in turn, the more you learn about God, right? The more you learn about God. Even for me to be in my position, first, the most important thing first, I had to know about people, right? And I was taken to depths about what's within people's hearts, you know. And I got to understand how to truly love, right? To truly love a person, right? Purely love a person, right? There's this one priest, he defined love in a very eloquent way. He said, love is you, you as a person, wanting good for the next person. That is love, right? It's not selfish, right? It's not selfish, yeah? You can't practice love in a cave trying to find enlightenment. No, 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 no. You find love when you interact with people, right? You learn a lot, right? And trust me, what you learn about people, God is exactly the same way. He is exactly the same way, right? I'm talking about the bigger picture, not the reasons that people put front, right? Put front like that, right? But once you know about people, then when you read the scripture, you find out like, there are similarities here. That's why it was important for us to love each other. That's why it's important to love each other, because in turn, we were truly loving God, right? We were truly loving God. So that's what we are supposed to do even now, even today, right? The scripture said, in the end of days, the hearts of men will wax cold, right? I think that's the right phrasing, right? The hearts of men will wax cold. They will become detached. They will become detached. And this will lead many to their doom, right? Because detachment is in the core of today's existential crisis that we see, right? Isolation, right? Isolation, right? When you are isolated, the enemy of souls, the devil, as we call him, attacks viciously, and he always wins. That's the most efficient hunting technique, right? Even lions do this, wild dogs do this, right? They see a big herd and then they isolate, they attack, they conquer, right? Because they have advantage of numbers at that particular moment. So that's what it's about, right? That's what it's about. So all of these times, these Pharisees pointed out that, for instance, the disciples broke some certain law. For instance, eating without washing their hands. He rebuked them for that, right? They tried to make that like a law of God, like you should wash your hands. The law, God has commanded us to wash our hands. Like, it's not true, right? It's not true. It's not true. So what I'm trying to say is, the church as we know it, right? Meaning the people who share a common belief, that is the church. It's supposed to go through to make a choice. Do they want to live like the people in the Old Testament, or do they want to follow the example of Christ, right? because the seat of judgment that most people sit on is making most people lose their souls, right? It's that example of pulling a bolt inside from another person's eye. If you do that a couple times, you won't even notice that you have one, right? And who is going to take it out if you're high and mighty, right? So I hope I'm being clear. I hope I'm being practical enough to be understood. I'm hoping. So this was just the introduction to these subjects, right? To these subjects. So I think I will name the video 2Loves, right? 2Loves. This would be part one. This would be part one. I would make it a part two, but it was that other video was talking about something else, right? So that's all I had to share with you for now, at least, right? So Prince Easy signing out. Bye.